Hey guys, Shot Got Picks here. Hope everyone's doing well and having a great week. We're back with a full breakdown for UFC Mexico City, Moreno versus Erceg. And for this one, I'm keeping it simple, just keeping it one video covering both full fight analysis and the best bets. You know, this card is a very fun card with a lot of local fighters, some altitude factors to consider, and of course, a lot of bangers at the main event. And with Brandon Moreno fighting at home, let's not waste any time. Let's break down UFC Mexico City. Let's get right into it. For the first fight in the card, we got Austin Hubbard versus Marquel Mederos. Hubbard comes into the 17-8 plus 165 underdog, 33 years old, 5'10" with a 69-inch reach. Meanwhile, Mederos is 9-1, negative 190 favorite, 29 years old, 5'10" with a 71-inch reach. You know, when regarding this fight, I've gone back and forth on this one a lot, and honestly, it's really tough to pick a side. Both Hubbard and Mederos just really don't, jump at me and really impress me much. Neither guy is really particularly, exciting or elite. Hubbard is kind of the poster boy of really being an average fighter. Really, he's very competent absolutely everywhere, but doesn't really excel in any, one area. He keeps a decent pace. He has a clean kickboxing, but he's slow and definitely lacks power. He'll keep the pace close on the feet, but usually falls short against, more polished strikers. The thing is, I'm not really convinced about Mederos really either. Is he that polished of a striker? Really? His stand-up game looks flashy at first, lots of feints, switching stances, but when you really watch closely, his boxing fundamentals just really aren't there. He'll land occasional sharp jabs, but most of his punches are wide, loopy, and easy to counter. His hooks in particular miss a lot and leave him wide open. He mixes in kicks and some knees or elbows now and then, but he tries to box way more than he should, given how shaky his hands are. And defensively, he's a mess. His stance is super wide. He leans back and rolls on every shot. His chin is hanging up, just waiting to get clipped. He doesn't move his head much and keeps his hands low, which I think is a recipe to really, getting tagged repeatedly. Plus, his output isn't anything to be crazy, really. Is anything crazy, is really what I meant to say. He throws in bursts of one or two, three shots. Spends way too much time posturing, really feigning without really pulling the trigger much. And, let's be honest, Hubbard definitely has his flaws too. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But I at least know what I'm getting with when it comes to Hubbard. He'll keep a steady pace, get in your face, and let his hands go. I actually think he is the cleaner boxer of the two. And not by a landslide, absolutely not. But he's consistent and targets the head well. Against a guy like Mederos, who is there to be hit, that can, make a difference. Wrestling could be a factor, though I'm not really sold on either fighter having an edge here, or especially not a major edge. Mederos has shown he's tough to take down, strong hips, quick to scramble. Hubbard should have a wrestling advantage on paper, but his shots are often rushed, really sloppy these days. Even when he gets taken down, even when he gets guys down, his control really isn't the best. So this likely ends up in a striking matchup, in my opinion. While Mederos brings the flash, I'm really leaning on Hubbard's experience here and his output and really his consistency. Mederos has potential, that's for sure. And training at MMA Lab might bring some improvements. But, from what I've seen, I don't think he should be a negative 200 over someone like Hubbard's experience. I absolutely would not be shocked if Hubbard loses this one, but I pick him odds. I'd rather side with the vet here. So regarding the best bets, I'm thinking Hubbard. I think this is a dog or pass. It just kind of has to be, right? Like, in my opinion, it really, really, really has to be. And, Mederos is solid, and I can understand why people are picking him, right? I really do. But I just can't. I think this is a dog or pass situation where it's just either Hubbard or you just don't bet this fight. When I was looking at this on paper, in the beginning, I was looking at the over and under on the fight, and on Bet Online, it was like negative 175, I believe, and then it skyrocketed. Now it's at negative like 315, which I think is super solid. Let's be honest. I think both are going to be solid. I don't think none of them are really going to be knocking each other out here. I think it's going to be a high volume output fight. I think it's going to be a fun fight to watch. Let's be honest, but I really do think the over 2.5 is really the only way you can go for this one. The fight goes a distance, and picking one guy to win by decision. But ultimately, this is a dog or pass for me. Give me Austin Hubbard to win by decision. Up next in the card, we got Jamall Emmers versus Gabriel Miranda. Emmers comes into this 20-8, negative 220 favorite, 35 years old, 5'10" with a 74-inch reach. Meanwhile, we got Gabriel Miranda, who's 17-7, plus 180 underdog, 35 years old, 5'11" with a 71-inch reach. Let's be honest, Miranda's one of those all or nothing fighters. If he doesn't get that first round sub, he's really nothing. He's kind of just toast. Let's be honest, like what I said, he charges in with wild strikes just to close the distance, pulls guard the second he can, and throws up a sub from absolutely every single angle. But once you surround that storm, he really collapses. He has no backup plan. He has really bad striking. He has a shaking chin, and he gasses extremely fast, especially at elevation. We have to remember that we're in Mexico City, which is even higher than Colorado. So if you know about baseball, the baseball flies, and there's always home runs in Colorado. And Mexico City is just, it's even higher. It's higher in elevation, which tells you need some real cardio here. Now, regarding Emmers, he's explosive, very clean hands, and some legit wrestling on paper. This should be his fight absolutely all day. He could stuff takedowns, dominate the stand-up, and make Miranda pay for literally every failed attempt, I think. But here's the catch when it comes to Emmers. Emmers has a history of shooting himself in the foot absolutely all the time. He hurts himself literally all the time. He looks great. He drops people, then dives for a sub, and then I don't know. He just really does a lot of stupid shit, So at the end of the day, this could be a fight IQ test for him. But if Emmers plays it smart and doesn't dive headfirst into chaos, and slip into a fucking guillotine, I think this is an easy win for for Jamall Emmers to win. I really do. And regarding best bets, I think round 1 knockout. No bullshit. I'm not lying. Let's be honest, Emmers at negative 300 is a beautiful parlay piece. We have to add those. We have to add that. Add that in the 2-legger, add that in the 4-legger. The fight goes the distance? No. Negative 220. We love that. And then Jamall Emmers to win by knockout. Plus 135. I really, really like that. And if you really want to get juicy with it, Emmers round 1 plus 300. Emmers round 1 knockout plus 400. We don't need to get that crazy. We really don't. If you want to get a little bit of better of a price, you can get Jamall Emmers to win inside the distance. And if it does go the distance, you get no action, basically meaning that if he knocks him out, you win your bet. But if it goes a distance, your bet gets voided. And that's at negative 275. So if you're looking at a little bit of a better a price, then you should take that, as well as Jamall Emmers at negative 3.5. That's negative 200. But let's be honest. Fighter inside the distance, negative 105. Pick and choose. Pick and choose. I absolutely see this. I don't see how Emmers doesn't win this fight. And I don't see how he doesn't end this inside the distance. So under 2.5 at negative 185, probably going to hammer that. And all the other ones that I mentioned before, I don't see Emmers I don't see how he would. I really don't see how he doesn't win this fight without a knockout. Give me Emmers round 1 knockout. Up next on the card, we got Rafa Garcia versus Pichel. Rafa Garcia comes to this 16-4, big favorite at negative 500, 30 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. Meanwhile, Pichel is 14-4, plus 375 underdog, 42 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. Let's be honest, Gabriel's path to victory here is absolutely crystal clear. He's younger, he's sharper, and far more well-rounded. His wrestling is absolutely relentless. His chain wrestling and takedowns, he's fucking solid. Let's be honest. He's mixing in his takedowns and his striking really well. And let's be honest, pressure heavy boxing. And once he gets you down, good luck getting up. Let's be honest. That's where Pichel has consistently struggled as well. His takedown defense is shaky. And even when he pops back up to his feet, he often gets up. He gives up control time. Garcia, let's be honest. He thrives in that kind of fight. He's aggressive. He's grinding. He's suffocating. And even on the feet, Garcia has the edge. He's not flashy, but he's sharp. He sticks to fundamentals. He gets in your face, and he throws clean combinations. His boxing is tight. It's efficient. And against someone like Pichel, who's awkward, he's slower. He's 42. He's getting more hittable. I think he's gonna land a lot of hits on Pichel. Now, when you talk about Pichel, he's a seasoned veteran with a very funky striking style, with odd stances, odd angles, and lots of leg kicks and single punches. It's unique, absolutely, but let's be honest, it's outdated. His offense isn't overwhelming, and he doesn't throw. Let's be honest, he does definitely throw a heat, but his knockout power is definitely not there anymore. His defense is even shakier. The wide base leaves him open. He's aged. His reflexes aren't there anymore. You could really, see this. You can see it in his last fight against Bonfim. The speed difference was absolutely brutal. Pichel's movement is still decent for his age, absolutely, because he is 42. But against fast, athletic guys, he's going to get left behind, absolutely. Garcia may not be Bonfim, especially not given his speed-wise, but he doesn't really necessarily have to be. You know, his pressure, output, and his wrestling absolutely is going to be enough. There's one red flag about Garcia is his gas tank, and we've seen him slow down. And if we're talking about Mexico City here, especially most notably in against that Gritzmacher fight and a bit against Close, but that Close fight was at elevation, and Garcia's been training in Mexico for weeks now, which should help. Unless he totally crashes out late, this is his fight to win. Pichel's tough, but he's got an old man's craftiness to him. He's at 42, declining speed, suspect takedown defense. I think this is absolutely all the way for Rafa Garcia to win. How he wins is most likely the decision. So we have two very clear things for us here. That Garcia to win is negative 500. The over 2.5. The over 2.5 is at negative 325. So does that mean you take Garcia by points, right? Negative 185. Sounds good to me. Goes a distance. Negative 285. Sounds good to me, right? What I'm really looking at, as well as the Garcia negative 3.5 points, of course, what I'm really looking at is Garcia to win by unanimous decision. That's by far the best bang for your buck here, especially given that we pretty much know the outcome of this fight. We basically know that Garcia is going to win, and we basically know it's probably going to go to decision. So, I got him to win all 3 rounds at negative 3.5 or unanimous decision. It's either or. Actually, now that I think about it, they're the same price, the same bet basically, because negative 3.5 pertains to knockouts and submissions as well. But of course, we think it's going to go to distance. Honestly, you might as well just do the negative 3.5. I'm actually looking at the negative 3.5 now. It's the same price. That's the best bet in my opinion. Best bang for your buck in this fight. But I got Garcia by decision in this one. Up next in the card, we got Loopy Godinez versus Julia Polastri. Godinez comes into this 12-5, opens up as a negative 165 favorite, 31 years old, 5'2" with a 61-inch reach. Meanwhile, Polastri is 13-4, plus 145 dog at open, 31 years old, 5'2" with a 63-inch reach. When regarding these two women, I think this one's a very tough one to call. I've given up a lot on Loopy. As a real contender, really. She's been there with ranked opponents enough times now, and she really hasn't really impressed me much. And to be honest, her game hasn't evolved much at all. Her striking still is very limited. Her approach feels one-dimensional, and her wrestling is still kind of overrated. While, she does dominate with it, it's usually against lower level opponents and those with weak takedown defense, and even then she doesn't really shoot often. Since the Carnelossi fight, her attempts at takedowns have been few and far between, usually come right at the end of rounds. I think her fight IQ is all over the place as well. I think she likes to grapple with better grapplers and to completely ignore the grappler game against people that she absolutely has an edge over, which, I just don't think it's really stupid to do. I mean, really smart to do. I just think it's dumb. She's had a few weeks to prepare for this one, but it's still not a full camp. And for someone like her who doesn't seem to strategize months, I think that's a big problem. Now, if Loopy can actually commit to wrestling here, this should be a straightforward win. Polastri's straight takedown defense is absolutely pretty bad. Let's be honest, and once she gets on her back, she's basically stuck there. She doesn't offer much resistance, and there's no real threat from her guard. Loopy's much better on the mat, and even someone like Knudsen managed to control Polastri, but again, does Loopy wrestle? That's really the question. When she does look for takedown, it's often a one and done kind of thing. If she doesn't chain wrestle, Polastri might be able to stuff those isolated attempts. That said, Polastri's decision making isn't the best either. She might just put herself in a bad spot. On the feet, this becomes way more competitive. Loopy's striking is really basic and pretty low volume. She relies on a lot on her athleticism, throws the same few combos, and doesn't really build off of her shots. There's not much nuance to her stand-up. Polastri, on the flip side, brings a lot more heat. She's got that aggressive Muay Thai vibe kind of thing, loves chaos and pushes the pace. She's not afraid to get dirty, and when she drags you in a brawl, that's where she really thrives in. She's also confident, and if she can back Loopy up and start really getting loose, she can take over the striking exchanges and really turn this to a clinch battle and really fight off those takedown attempts from Loopy. Polastri could absolutely shine here. Her clinch work is nasty. We saw that in her last outing. Her one big flaw, though, is Polastri gets hit a lot. Loopy doesn't have heavy hands, but if Polastri just walks into shots without adjusting, it might tilt the fight back towards Loopy. At the end of the day, Loopy is the better fighter on paper. Her wrestling advantage is huge, and Polastri's fight IQ is absolutely just as questionable as Loopy's. But if Loopy doesn't get the grappling going well, history says that she's not going to do well. Let's be honest. So this one, I don't like it. I won't say that I won't toss Loopy in a 5-leg parlay, and toss $10 on it. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to put her in a parlay. I'm not going to say that. Because I do think she wins. I do think Polastri is... I think she gets stuck when she's on the mat. She does. But, at the end of the day, this is not going to be an easy win for Loopy either. My best bets include Godinez as a parlay piece at -230. It's not the most confident, of course. The over 2.5 rounds is at -575, and the fight goes a distance at -550, so those things don't really necessarily make sense. So I think you either have to go Godinez by points at -185 or Polastri plus 3.5 point spread at -190. Let's be honest. Polastri could pull this one off, and it's going to go the distance. And this goes back to my favorite bet last week, where I hit like 3 out of 4, besides the one that I actually bet on. So stupid. And that's that the fight goes to split decision at plus 300. I think this is the perfect opportunity in this card to be doing that. At plus 300, that's easily a nice little sprinkle dinkle, But there's not really much best bets on this one. This one's tough to predict. Godinez is not that good, and she's at -230. So take that as you may. Godinez by decision is my choice. Up next on the card, we got Christian Rodrigues versus Melquezial. Costa. Rodrigues comes into this 12-2, -160 favorite, 27 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. Meanwhile, Costa is 22-7, plus 135 dog, 28 years old, 5'10" with a 71-inch reach. This one's a bit of a curveball matchup for me, but it's got some serious entertainment potential here. I've always been a fan of watching C-Rod do his thing, and now he's finally got a dance partner who's willing to strike with him from start to finish. Rodrigues seems to have settled nicely into the featherweight division. He's bulked up a bit and looks way more comfortable carrying that extra weight. That Erosa fight was rough. We can admit that. He admitted it after where that the size difference really rattled him, but rewatching it, he actually was doing well on the feet before shooting that takedown. He was outstriking Erosa, handling that size gap fine, and even landing some solid shots, plus escaping from his having his back taken was absolutely no small accomplishment against the Rosa. There is still a size question here, though, since Costa has competed at lightweight before, but honestly, it probably won't be a huge factor in this fight. Costa doesn't bring a ton of physical strength or knockout power to the table, in my opinion. His style is flashy, filled with volume-heavy kicks, but not a lot of real sting behind them, really. They're annoying and keep opponents busy, especially targeting the body and the legs, but they rarely do lasting damage. The only guy he's really hurt with that approach was Austin Lingo, and even then he couldn't finish him, and Austin Lingo is not that good of a fighter. If you neutralize Costa's kicking range, his boxing looks a lot more average. Technically solid, absolutely, but he lacks pop, and under pressure he gets hit pretty fast. He becomes hittable pretty fast. He doesn't handle inside exchanges well at all. Rodrigues, on the other hand, is a smart and versatile striker. He mixes all of his weapons. He has a sharp eye for openings and adjusts well mid-fight, in my opinion. Just look at how he dissected Saimon. You notice that Saimon charges in with his chin up and countered with those perfectly timed knees. That kind of prep and execution is absolutely elite when it comes to C-Rod. I think Costa gets messy in close quarters, and Rodrigues will likely make him pay. Even at range, Rodrigues has some decent kicks of his own, so it's not like Costa will dominate from distance. And absolutely sure, let's be honest, Costa might win some moments with volume from the outside, but I doubt he runs away with that and wins the round with that type of style. I expect Rodrigues to mainly keep it standing, but I do think he'll mix in some takedowns, break Costa's rhythm. And there's a slight concern about Costa's locking up a submission, of course, but outside of that, Rodrigues should be in control of the mat. Costa's takedown defense is shaky, and he tends to stay on his back way too long once he is on the ground. And let's be honest, Costa pulled off a surprise submission last time. I don't know what the fuck Philly was doing. I have no clue. He literally slipped his head and he basically said, "Here you go, here's my neck." It was stupid. Rodrigues isn't going to fall into that stupid type of shit. He's shown strong submission defense, even against dangerous guys like Arosa. His grappling is slick. He scrambles well. He doesn't necessarily get caught in weird spots. Costa is tricky off his back, absolutely, and always fishing for something, But Rodrigues should be experienced enough to avoid those type of traps and keep top control. As long as he times his takedowns late in the rounds, I think he should lock down control and steal rounds in the scorecard. And then let's be honest, I do think this is going to go to the scorecards. And speaking of that, Christian Rodrigues right now is at negative 160. And I think he was at negative 140 to start off with. And I can only see him going higher. I think he's going to go to negative 180 by fight night. I think fight goes the distance is going to be at negative 180. This one's tough because the further it goes towards negative 180, the more you got to be on the Costa side because this should be negative 140 plus 120. Negative 140 plus 115. That's exactly what it should be. But when you're pushing Costa at plus 150 and Rodrigues at negative 180, that's when you're really not necessarily making sense. So my best bet is Rodrigues in parlays and negative 150 below. You're looking at a nice single play there. I think this fight goes the distance. I don't necessarily think someone's going to be finished here. There absolutely can be a finish, of course. Submission-wise, I just don't see it. And if you're going to be picking the Melquezial side, I think it's going to be by submission. So I would take the wins inside the distance, goes distance, no action prop on the Costa side if you like him, as well as the split decision prop, plus 300. You can't go wrong with that one, especially because this should be coin flip odds, and now it's just pushing not to coin flip odds. So, as well as I do think it's going to go to decision. So that's another one to sprinkle there. Those are my bets, but I got C-Rod. I think he takes this one. I don't necessarily think Costa nor Rodrigues to that point are really seeing that good of opponents, and these two are probably the highest level of competition that both have seen. So we'll see. I got C-Rod at negative 180 though. It's dog or pass though. Let's be honest. C-Rod by decision is my choice. Up next on the card we got Ateba Gautier versus Jose Medina. Gautier comes to the 6-1, negative 550, heavy favorite, 22 years old, 6'4" with an 81-inch reach. Meanwhile, Medina is 11-4, plus 400, underdog, 33 years old, 6'0" with a 74-inch reach. Let's be honest, this fight, it really doesn't make absolutely sense whatsoever. You absolutely know exactly what UFC is doing here. Medina, he's literally known for just taking a beating, surviving long enough, and that's basically it. Let's be honest. His compliments are, wow, this guy's tough. Wow, this guy's durable. That's basically it. That's basically it. They throw him in with a raw, explosive freak of nature who's never gone deep, and it's set at all the way up at high altitude in Mexico City. Gautier is 22, already built like a Marvel character. The dude's power is ridiculous, and while he's still figuring out what to do with it, that raw athleticism alone makes him dangerous. His footage is rough, like absolutely very rough, but it's obvious that the talent is there. He's giving big baby Musasa vibes. Full of potential, just needs the reps. Let's be honest. That said, it's wild that UFC brought him in so early, but if they were going to do it, Medina's probably the softest landing possible. The guy can't strike, doesn't wrestle, and isn't a finisher. He's mostly just there. People call him tough. That's literally it. That's it. The one path to victory, the one path to beating Gautier is grinding him out and wrestling him. But Medina can't wrestle. And he got a takedown on Reese, but he instantly lost the position and not exactly convincingly. Let's be honest. Gautier has been training with Ramani, an absolute monster in the grappling world. So it's great to see him working on those holes. Even better, you don't even need wrestling fundamentals to dump Medina on his back. One slam and Gautier can start raining bombs and win ground and pound. I mean, let's be honest. I'm not going to break this one down that much. There's really not much to break down on, except the fact that Gautier is going to win by round 1. Let's be honest. He's here for a reason. It's because he knows how to fight. He's green because he doesn't know how to wrestle and do the mixed martial arts aspect of things. But he's here because he's knocked people out. So, maybe Medina's tough enough to last 2 rounds. You know, like Gautier round 1 knockout. It just has to be. It just has to be the way. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Gautier negative 3.5, negative 260. The fight doesn't go to distance. Where's the fight doesn't go to distance? Negative 205, and either fighter to win by knockout. Negative 170. It's just that simple. I mean, I don't see any other way, right? I mean, unless you think Gautier wins by points plus 275. You know, I mean, I don't think I could bet this one because of Musasa's bitch ass got me scared now. Let's be honest. But Medina, we know what we're going to get with Medina. You know, this one's different. Give me Gautier round 1 knockout. Up next on the card, we got Edgar Chairez versus CJ Vergara. Chairez comes into this 11-6, negative 265 favorite, 29 years old, 5'7" with a 71-inch reach. Meanwhile, Vergara is 12-6-1, plus 210 underdog, 33 years old, 5'6" with a 68-inch reach. I mean, let's be honest, I think this fight is very mid-tier. I think it's kind of a wild that both of these guys are, you know, getting another shot. Let's be real. The loser's probably getting cut, and somehow Chairez is sitting as a massive favorite. It doesn't make absolutely any sense to me. Both these guys are pretty much garbage. And I get the angle people are running with. Chairez only loses to top-tier prospects, and he had Van in trouble. But let's not rewrite history. Van made terrible decisions in that fight. Going toe-to-toe against Chairez is just not playing it smart. It was close because Van let it be close. Sure, Chairez absolutely has some moments. He dropped Tyra, stole a round from Carpenter, but in both cases, he faded and clearly got outclassed after the opening frame. He's explosive and dangerous, absolutely, but he's a killer-be-killed type of fighter. He's never won a decision in his career, and he's simply not built to win rounds. His pace is slow, his output is minimal, and his defense is pretty much just, I have a chin. Offensively, he's got some pop, but it's basic stuff. 1s and 2s, leg kicks, an occasional wild flying knee or spin. Despite being labeled a knockout threat, he hasn't actually finished anyone in over 3 years. He might land knockdowns, but he rarely follows up with urgency, and his lack of volume means he's not bankable unless he sleeps you early. Vergara, on the other hand, gets hurt a lot. A lot. Let's be honest. That's a big red flag, I know. But he's big. He's gritty as fuck. This is exactly what he's known for. When I was texting my boy, I was like, yo, what do you think about Vergara? And he was like, I don't know, man. I mean, he constantly gets hit. And I'm like, I know that. And Chairez is dirt. And I think that kind of plays into Vergara's, let's be honest. Vergara gets hit bad in the beginning, and he somehow wins the fight later on. I don't really know how he does it. Even in the Temerov fight, he 8 shots, got dropped, and still forced a body shot finish because his chin held up. Crucially, he doesn't shoot takedowns, which neutralizes Chairez's guillotine. One of the biggest tools he has on the mat. This is going to be a pure striking match, and that favors Vergara in my opinion. Chairez just doesn't throw enough to win rounds consistently, and Vergara thrives in chaos. He struggles with range fighters who stay disciplined, but Chairez is going to bring he's like the phone booth kind of fighter, and Vergara loves that type of shit. In tight, Vergara's bodywork is nasty, hooks to the ribs, upstairs combos, and with the being at elevation, that gas tank management becomes even more important. I think Chairez is going to gas out here. Let's be honest. Vergara has been in Mexico City for a few weeks already, so he should be already acclimated. Chairez, even training there, has shown he fades hard after one round. Because that's how explosive he fights. Bottom line, if Chairez can't find a finish early, I don't think he will, and I think that becomes a fight for Vergara to win. So ultimately, I got the dog here. And not only do I got the dog, best bets wise, I definitely got dog or pass here, but I actually think he deserves to be on a parlay to really juice it up. I don't really see why Chairez is negative 250. This is crazy to me. So regarding best bets, I got Vergara to win, plus 210. But let's be real, that's probably a scary one. So if you really want some legit bets, I like the over 2.5 at negative 110. I like the fight goes to distance at negative 1. The over 2.5 at -150. The fight goes to distance at -110. The over 2.5 is obviously the better choice here. Vergara by points is juicy at +450. But if we're really gonna take it, let's be honest, we gotta go with Vergara +3.5 at -110. I really think that's the way to go. As well as fight goes to split decision. You know that's my moneymaker recently. I love that shit. That shit really be popping if you get the right fight. You know, +400. That's some solid juice. It's a nice sprinkle bet. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I got Chairez to win. I just think I got Vergara to win. I just think Chairez is dirt. Let's be honest. I think both of them are dirt. But since this is in Mexico City, Chairez is known for gassing on after one round. I gotta go Vergara. Give me Vergara by decision. Up next on the card, we got Ronaldo Rodrigues facing Kevin Borjas. Rodrigues comes to the 17-2, -150 favorite, 25 years old, 5'6" with a 65-inch reach. Meanwhile, Borjas is 9-3, +120 dog, 27 years old, 5'5" with a 68-inch reach. Let's be honest, I've been trying to fade Rodrigues for a while now. I believe I faded him in the last fight. I'm not a fan of him whatsoever, let's be honest. But I think this matchup feels like the UFC are really throwing him a softball. On paper, it looks like a step back in competition. Everything about Rodrigues feels manufactured, from his inflated 2 million IG followers to his padded record stacked with regional level nobodies. Let's be honest, there's some legitimate talent in there, but most of his game feels like smoke and mirrors to me, let's be honest. Even in his UFC and Dana White Contender Series appearances, he hasn't really impressed me whatsoever. The only reason he's able to grab wins is because he's been matched with guys that are really just not on the level of the UFC. And frustratingly, that seems to be the case again. Borjas is a pure striker with a lot of gaps in his game. Honestly, I think Jode was a tougher test. Borjas lacks the physical tools, the size, the athleticism, the versatility that would make him, really dangerous for Rodrigues. This fight is pretty straightforward in my opinion. If it stays standing, Borjas has the edge. If it hits the ground, Rodrigues is world, absolutely. Borjas does have solid hands, decent boxing fundamentals, and hits hard, absolutely, especially to the body. He's slower than I remembered, but still packs flyweight power. The problem is that he's got some really, really bad defense. He doesn't check leg kicks. I think he's very hittable, and that won't matter much against Rodrigues, who I think is really bad on the feet, but it's still absolutely a concern. Rodrigues' striking is honestly, I think it's ass. He wings sloppy hooks. He doesn't really throw jabs, really. He doesn't really have much volume whatsoever. He's getting clipped cleanly, constantly. He got rocked early in his last fight, and I think he's very slow. His stand-up game, his whole approach is just really swinging to the fences with minimal technique. I think his confidence is sky high. I just don't think he's that good in this fight. If this fight is a kickboxing match, Borjas absolutely should win. Even if he's not elite on the feet, Rodrigues doesn't really bring much of a threat outside of maybe landing a bomb. But when it comes to the grappling, this is where things get really interesting. Rodrigues is awful at wrestling. He can't chain attempts, or he only shoots for double legs. But if he can get it down, it might be game over, I think. Borjas doesn't have takedown defense, and once he's on a map, he's a fish out of water. That's a major issue against someone like Rodrigues, who's a crafty scrambler and genuinely dangerous in the top position. He's not perfect, still makes mistakes, but his ability to create scrambles and stay effective and, hump for submissions is absolutely legit, let's be honest. This fight might be ugly early, especially if Rodrigues struggles to get it down. But if he does manage to drag Borjas to the ground, I see him finding a finish, ground and pound or submission. Either way feels really likely to me. In terms of pure grappling, Borjas might be the weakest opponent Rodrigues has ever faced. Borjas, Dana White Contenders Series fight still sticks with me, really. Another 30-second, in round one, and he's probably out cold, I think. So let's be honest, Rodrigues might get clipped trying to stand and fight Borjas, but if this comes to the ground, I think this is, let's be honest, I do think this is Rodrigues' fight when it comes to the ground. But I don't like this fight. I wouldn't bet it. I like Rodrigues to win, but -150 against +110, +130 is no value for me here. I think he could submit him, so I don't know if it's going to be an over and under. I have no clue if it's going to go to the decision or not. I honestly have no clue. I really, really don't. And really the only bet that I have here that I like is Rodrigues wins inside the distance, and if it goes a distance, no action. So, and that's at negative 260. But, it's a little juicy. But that's really the only play I like on this fight. I'm staying far away from this one, I believe. I, I, I just think Rodrigues is dirt, but I'm picking him to win. So, give me Rodrigues to win by submission. Up next on the card, we got David Martinez versus Simon Oliveira. Martinez comes to this 11-1, negative 375 favorite at opening, 26 years old, 5'5", 67-inch reach. Meanwhile, Oliveira's 18-5, plus 285 underdog, 33 years old, 5'10", with a 71-inch reach. Regarding Martinez, he really caught my attention, especially in his debut. I think he absolutely got something. He is absolutely raw for sure in some spots, but his talent is for sure there. He's an explosive striker with dynamic movement, constantly moving style that keeps really his opponents guessing. What stands out for me is his kicks. The guy throws everything: leg kicks, spinning stuff, head kicks, axe kicks, you name it. He's got it in his bag. That versatility makes him super dangerous on the feet. His boxing is very solid, in my opinion, as well. Offensively, he knows what he's doing and definitely packs a punch, though I still think he's a little uncomfortable in tight exchanges. His defense up close could be better, and sometimes he seems to step behind when things get chaotic in the pocket, but credit where it's due, his fundamentals are sharp, and you can see the improvements fight to fight. On top of that, he's got a gas tank to push the pace for all 3 rounds. The dude absolutely does not stop. Now, regarding Oliveira, I don't think I'm sold at all regarding him. His record might look really good on paper, but once you really dig in, I think it's just a lot of cans. He's heavily reliant on one thing, the guillotine choke. That's basically his entire defensive game plan. Pull guillotine when someone shoots. It's really something that he does literally all the time. If that doesn't work, he's really got nothing off of his back. His takedown are really slow, very telegraphed, and there's really no chain wrestling when regarding him. But when he does manage to get on top, it's really laying prey. Martinez isn't some elite grappler, but he's shown he can get back on his feet pretty reliably unless he's hurt. And that only happened when he ate a perfectly timed shot. Not something that I'd expect Oliveira to do. Plus, with Martinez constantly circling and staying light on his feet, Oliveira is going to struggle to get even close to him to shoot. Striking-wise, this is a blowout. Yes, Oliveira's reach is freakishly long, but he barely ever uses it. He gets visibly flustered when he gets tagged clean, and that's bad news when you're facing someone like Martinez, when I think he thrives with pressure and movement. Factor in Oliveira's questionable cardio, especially the fact that we're fighting at a high altitude. This means I think it's a ticking time bomb for him. And to top it off, I just don't think Oliveira is in this for the long run. He barely fights. He hasn't been in the cage since early 2023, and this is only his 4th bout in 6 years. So I just think he's really just trying to get a check here, and I don't think he's really trying to chase a career here. I think Martinez should easily handle this, and I also think he's going to knock him out. So in round 3, so that's why the over 2.5 or under 2.5 is a little tough. I got the going the distance, not going the distance at negative 140. But ultimately, I do have Martinez as well. Negative 360 piece is a nice one. I wish we had another play like a Kavanaugh at negative 250 where I was just so confident in. This is similar to that, but negative 360 is more juiced, but he is going down. I do believe he opened up at negative 400. But we do have Martinez to win inside the distance at negative 275, as well as negative 3.5 at negative 190. I really think that's probably the best play here, at negative 190 at the spread for Martinez, because ultimately I do think he's going to get this done. I just don't see Oliveira finding a guillotine here in this one, And if he does, I guess bet that he wins inside the distance, goes the distance, no actions, sort of say, plus 215 on that. But I just see no value on that either, because I just don't think he's going to win. So give me Martinez, round 3 knockout. Up next on the card, we got Raul Rosas Jr. versus Vince Morales. Rosas Jr. comes into this 10-1, negative 310, favorite, 20 years old, 5'9", with a 67-inch reach. Meanwhile, Morales is 16-9, plus 250 underdog, 34 years old, 5'7", with a 70-inch reach. I'm actually pretty excited for this fight. Morales is, he doesn't have the best record in the world, absolutely not, but he's absolutely a seasoned veteran in the game. Most of his losses come from very solid competition, and he's never been an easy guy to deal with. Since his UFC departure in 22, you can tell he's leaned heavily into the veteran savvy approach. It's not that he's drastically improved. He's just smarter now. He's fixed some of his holes in his game and fights with more urgency, uses his jiu-jitsu more, and he's been going back to his wrestling roots more consistently. That experience makes him a legit test to Rosas Jr., especially because he's 20 years old. He's notoriously hard to finish, tends to drag opponents into uncomfortable territory, and with Rosas, we still don't really know if he's got the cardio or the grit to survive that kind of adversity. Morales isn't some elite wrestler, but he's scrappy and hard to keep down. Rosas will almost definitely land takedowns, but controlling Morales is a different story. He pops back up constantly, and no one has been able to keep him off the ground, keep him grounded for a long time. That being said, though, I do think that Rosas will find some moments of control. He'll have to grind for it, but he's actually shown strong top control when he gets dominant positions. Sure, he's faced low-level competition, but even in, the C-round fight, he held control for a whole round. And while Turcios isn't really great, Rosas neutralized his awkward scrambles and even got the finish. No one else has really done that to Turcios. I think Morales will stuff the few first shots, might even throw up a necktie threat or two, but I still see Rosas eventually getting top position, whether it's on the back. Whether it's the back or on the mount, he can make something happen from there. Morales hasn't been subbed in years, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen. I haven't been blown away by Rosas' development since entering the UFC, but his grappling is absolutely undeniably strong. Training with guys like Pachi and Marab, it makes sense he's able to control opponents like he does. The big issues for Rosas is if his takedowns don't come, his striking and it's just really... It's still very stiff, and looks very forced. He throws hard, but he still looks very uncomfortable doing his strikes. Morales, on the other hand, he has very clean boxing fundamentals, solid counters, and doesn't really mind getting into gritty brawls. Just last month, he went through a war, and that brings me to my biggest concern. Let's be honest, his quick turnaround. He's fighting this fight just 45 days after that war with Smith, where he ate a shit ton of damage. From what I've seen on social media, his nose still looks banged up from getting broken. This is all red flags, even though Rosas probably won't land anything big upstairs. One clean shot can absolutely just re-break it, let's be honest, and that's probably why he's not really worried. But you just broke it. Morales normally has great cardio, but with this fast turnaround and the damage he took, I'm not convinced he'll fully recovered. That matters here, especially against some fighters like Rosas, who tends to fade hard. Let's not forget, Rosas ducked Turcios' fight in Mexico, reportedly due to concerns about gassing out. And now he hasn't even arrived early for altitude adjustments, which adds another layer of doubt here. Still, if Rosas can land takedowns early and often, I still see him cruising. Let's be honest, Morales isn't easy to finish, but fighting 45 days after a brutal scrap is absolutely not something that anybody should be doing. If he's not constantly making Rosas work for takedowns or testing him on the feet, Rosas won't gas. And he should just have a clear path to victory here, and I'm leaning towards submission. And I also seen him, grinding out a fight here for 15 minutes as well, because let's be honest, Morales is really durable, but I do see Rosas Jr. getting a submission here. So I think Rosas Jr. is a solid parlay piece. I don't see it going the distance, plus 120, but I also can see it going the distance, so that's a really tough one to endorse. I do like Rosas Jr. by submission, as well as for him to win inside the distance, no action, negative 325. But really, let's be honest, I like that spread, negative 180. It's just the best one for me. I just see that one hitting the best. Let's be honest. Give me that one. Raul Rosas Jr. by submission, round 2 is my play. Up next on the card, we got Kelvin Gastelum facing Joe Pyfer. Gastelum comes into this 19-9, plus 240 underdog, 33 years old, 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. Meanwhile, Pyfer's 13-3, negative 300. Favorite, 28 years old, 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. Let's be honest here. The odds are fucking wild. I get it. Gastelum's recent stretch hasn't been great. He seems off, maybe even disinterested at times, and is landing on bad taste. But seeing him priced at plus 400 or worse, I think that's fucking crazy. And that's why the odds got adjusted. And that's why I needed to fucking record this script before they got adjusted. Because Pyfer was at fucking negative 500. That is crazy. It's crazy. Let's be honest. That's crazy. A bigger underdog here and then guys against... Let's be honest. Pyfer, negative 500 against Gastelum. That's a bigger favorite than Adesanya was, than Whitaker was, or Cannonier when facing Gastelum. Don't add up. Gastelum's been on a sliding for a bit, no, for sure. But I'm not ready to buy into Piper, into being this destroyer he's being made out to be. These odds suggest he's just going to run through Gastelum and getting him out early. I don't see that happening here. People have been waiting on Gastelum's chin to finally give out for years, but it just hasn't. The last time he's been dropped is August 2021. Piper might be able to clip him, but I don't think he'll be able to finish him. Piper's power is absolutely real. There's no argument there, but maybe a little bit overhyped, I think. 3 UFC knockouts came against guys who are already pretty fragile. Outside of those kill shots, I think Gastelum is more polished striker. I know that's not a popular take here, but Piper has that highlight reel, but technically he's still raw. Most hooks, short combos, resets constantly. Gastelum throws volume, digs into exchanges, and welcomes chaos. Now, am I picking Gastelum here? No, I'm not saying that. It's just that Piper shouldn't be just such a big of a favorite, as well as he shouldn't be that expected to knock out Gastelum, because apparently that's what everybody thinks. It doesn't make no damn sense to me. It don't make no sense to me. Gastelum's head movement is extremely underrated. If Joe can't land a clean early, he's going to burn a lot of energy swinging at air, especially in those pocket exchanges where he tends to load up at most, Grappling, Piper might have the edge on paper, but it's not significant. He's not replacing what Sean Brady did, Even in that fight, Gastelum made him work. Piper doesn't have that level of grappling endurance. Al Hassan was able to get back to his feet pretty easily against him, which tells me Joe's top control is not that good either. And there's the altitude factor. It's fucking huge. Gastelum's been in Mexico for a month, getting acclimated. Piper is still in the U.S., filming podcasts. I think that's a big problem, But, like I said, to my last point as well, I think Piper's mindset that doesn't work so well to him. I think he has an extremely massive ego. I think he's very receptive to criticism, and I think he thinks he's above everybody, which is just not true. And I think he is expecting to just run right through Gastelum, and I don't think that's gonna be the case. And I think that's gonna be a big factor here when fighting Gastelum. So really, what I'm trying to say to you guys here is this. Do I think Piper wins? Yes. Do I think he should be at the negative 300 that he is now? Yes. Negative 500 was crazy. Think about it. We could have caught Gastelum like 3 days ago at plus 475. And then 2 days later caught Piper at negative 305. That's solid as shit. Because he should have never been at those odds ever. You get what I'm saying? And let's also be honest. I don't think he's going to knock him out. I also don't think Gastelum's going to knock him out. So, I also think that the over 2.5 at negative 120 makes sense. People are like, oh shit, why is it at 2.5? Why is it at negative 1? Why is it at 1.5? And why is the underdog compared to the over? It don't make sense. But it does make sense because Gastelum's not getting knocked out here. He's just not. Piper's knocking out lower competition. So, and let's also talk about this. Over 2.5 rounds is negative 120. Under 2.5 rounds is negative 110. But goes the distance is that it goes the distance is at plus 100, but that it doesn't go the distance is at negative 130. So the over is the favorite, but goes the distance is the underdog. Sounds like a trap to me. Give me that goes to the distance. Give me Piper by points. Plus 175. That's why Piper by points plus 175 is lower than Piper by knockout plus 265. Sometimes you gotta look at these numbers and just make sense. These numbers add up. You get what I'm saying? Think about it. Guys. Think about it. Gastelum by points plus 450. Gastelum by knockout plus 600. Piper by knockout plus 265. Piper by points plus 175. But when you have goes the distance at negative 130 and goes the distance at plus 100, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. The method of victory is by points, and that's the favorite. But when it comes to going the distance, that's not the favorite. It doesn't make sense. This fight is a fucking trap. I'm telling you, this fight's a trap. It's one of those things that I'm probably just gonna put Piper in a 5-legger
and that's it. Not even a two-legger, because my two-leggers are probably like, to make one unit, I, I'm afraid Gasol might win. It's really what I'm trying to say to you. And this is dragging on, but I just need to put that point across. It's a reason why he went from negative 500 to negative 300. This is an entirely trappy fight. I'm avoiding it. Give me Piper by decision. Up next on the card, we got Manuel Torres versus Drew Dober. Torres comes to this 15-3, negative 115 at open. 30 years old, 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. Dober is 27-14, negative 104, negative 105 at open. 36 years old, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. I mean, Dober is absolutely a veteran, and he has a granite chin and his track record of dragging guys into wars and coming out on top. But I'm not going to act like he's untouchable. His durability is absolutely fading. The reflexes are getting slower, and when you watch his recent fights, they're getting a lot closer. He's getting hit cleaner and more often than he's ever has before. And regarding Torres, he's for sure flawed as well. Explosive, dangerous, but he's also not afraid to throw his hands. People are writing him off because of the Bahamunez loss, and yeah, it was a bad loss. But here's the thing, a brutal knockout like that forces a fighter to either evolve or fade. And I think Torres is going to bounce back sharper here. Let's be honest, it wasn't a bad loss. Bahamunez is now ranked 15th. Now let's also talk about styles. Torres is chaotic, unpredictable, and if there's one thing Dober doesn't hand well, is guys who can hurt him early. Torres might not be a technician, but he's got power in both hands and throws with zero hesitation. If he jumps on Dober before the old tank, can get rolling, this could be over fast. Plus, nobody's really talking about Torres' grappling. He's not a heavy wrestling guy, but when he sees an opening, he goes for it. Dober's sub defense isn't bad, but it's not bulletproof either. If Torres stings him and follows him to the mat and clubbed and sub finish, I think is very much on the table. Another thing is Dober gets tagged constantly. He eats shots to give shots, and that's dangerous. Your chin is no longer ironclad anymore. Torres has rocked plenty of guys in the opening minute, and if he lands cleanly, I mean, let's be honest, it's fucking Torres. Torres had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 straight wins with a first round knockout. That's fucking big. That's why I picked Torres to win against Bahamunez, because they were coin flips, and Bahamunez is showing us that he's fucking good. I'm not disregarding that loss as me thinking that he's a bum, and it's just not true. It's just not true. It's not. Let's be honest. But we do have a concern of Torres' cardio. It's a concern. Does it really matter in this one? I don't think so. It's not gonna. It's probably. I mean, someone's getting knocked out very quick here. Torres is not here to win decisions. He's a one-round killer. This is the perfect example. The perfect opponent really to test that again. I'm not saying Torres is a future champ. Absolutely not. But this for specific matchup at the specific moment in Dober's career, I think he's faster. I think he's younger. He's more dynamic, and he's mentally locked in after that last fight. I think he has the opportunities to knock out Dober. I mean, let's be honest, man. He's knocking a lot of people out. He knocked a lot of people out, and he has submissions as well. It's not 7 knockouts, 7 submissions. It's not. We're not going to talk about like he's not submitting people. His last win, he submitted Chris Duncan, who we just saw what Chris Duncan did last week. Let's be honest. This guy's not a bum, and so we're not going to act like he's a bum. I'm also not going to act like Dober's a bum, but we're acting like Dober, like his chin is like he's not knockoutable kind of thing. Let's be honest. So this is by far the hardest one. I mean, let's be honest, it's 50-50 on Tapology, and it's 50-50 on the odds, so it's real tough. I mean, you kind of have to pick a side, right? Because there's really no other bets on that other than that, I guess the under 1.5, negative 170, but it can absolutely go to the second round, so you got to just pick a side on this one. I would stay far away from this fight, because it's just a fight that we should sit back and enjoy. But I do have Torres in a parlay. I won't lie about that. But I won't be putting straights on this fight. This is a really good fight. But 50-50 as 50-50 as it gets. Give me Torres round 1 knockout. Up next on the card, we got the main event of the night of Brandon Moreno facing Steve Erceg. Moreno comes into this 22-8-2, negative 200 favorite, 31 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. Erceg is 12-3, plus 165 dog, 29 years old, 5'8" with a 68-inch reach. I'm not gonna lie, UFC is really pissing me off. I don't understand why they keep on pushing prospects too hard and too fast. Steve Erceg is stepping up for the 3rd time in a row, facing really, really tough competition, and I just absolutely do not get what they're doing. I don't get it. And this is coming from a guy who picked him to win that Pantoja fight. And a lot of people called me stupid for that, and honestly, it makes sense, because who the fuck was Erceg, right? No one knew who the fuck that guy was until that fight, and then he came out on top until he didn't, because he went for that fucking stupid-ass takedown in the 5th round. But that's that legacy that Erceg now has, right? He almost beat Pantoja when we didn't know who the fuck that guy was, right? And then, they put him against Kai Kara-France, which we knew has fucking freakishly long reach and some really knockout power, and we knew that it might be a big problem for Erceg, but of course, UFC don't give a fuck. I mean, let's be honest, what the fuck did that fight do? They haven't done anything with Kai Kara-France yet. It makes no sense. I don't understand what the fuck UFC be doing sometimes, but that's what they, I don't know. I just don't agree with, I don't think that this matchup really does him any favors. This kind of matchmaking really crushes confidence, really than really building it. You know, I mean, if he wins, then that would be crazy, but you got my point, though, you know? So, stylistically, the fight got layers. Moreno and Erceg actually share a lot of similarities. Both are clean strikers. Both are comfortable in slugfest, even though they come from grappling backgrounds. Both are surprisingly hittable for grapplers. The big difference is Moreno is just better at nearly everything. He's sharper on the feet, his transitions are smoother, and he's seen way tougher competition. I'm not fully convinced Moreno's decline is real yet. Sure, he's looked shaky against Royval, and Albazi wasn't exactly peak from after his surgery, but I still think there's something left in the tank, especially when the other guy is Erceg. Moreno's been through wars with the elite of the division. He's not going to see anything different that Erceg will be able to surprise him with, sort of say. And Erceg's defense, I think his chin is exposed a lot, He finally got clipped in his last fight, but I think it was coming for him. Let's be honest. I think we all agree with that. His chin has always been there. He kind of just held up, But since getting cracked by Kara-France, he's walked into a fight with someone who's better than him on the feet, better in the scrambles, and just more experienced in chaotic moments. And if it turns into a brawl, Moreno, I think, does really well there as well, and Erceg doesn't. Wrestling-wise, neither of them really stand out, takedown artists, But I give the edge to Moreno. He's a bit quicker, and his entries are more fluid. I'm not wild about Moreno off of his back, but his grappling overall is higher level. And we've seen that against Figueiredo and Pantoja. Erceg's BJJ is absolutely solid too, don't get me wrong. But when Pantoja got on top of him, he didn't really have any answers whatsoever. The ground exchanges, if they happen, should be very fun. Both guys can scramble. Both have slick subs. But I do trust Moreno's instincts and experience more when things get messy. Even though he's not going to control from the top for long stretches. I think he'll know when to switch things up. At the end of the day, this fight should be exciting, but it's not tough to lean heavily towards the Moreno side. Honestly, I feel bad for Erceg. I'm a big fan, and I just think that they're giving him really, really, really tough fighters, man. It just doesn't really make sense to me, I don't know what the fuck they're doing, but because he's young, he built up a name immediately after that Pantoja fight. Doesn't really make sense to me, but I'm really upset because I should have picked up Moreno at negative 180. Moreno at negative 240 is really starting to stretch it. I put him in a parlay at negative 220, but at 240 he's really, really starting to stretch it, and I'm not gonna lie. And other than that, I'm not gonna lie, I don't like this fight to bet on either. I don't, because Erceg is Erceg. He's fucking good. We're not gonna I don't care if he's lost the last 2 fights. He's fucking good. We're not gonna just act like he's a bum either. And the over 4.5, I think, should hit, but someone could get knocked out. Someone can get submitted. So I don't know if this goes to decision or not. It's just a tough one. It's a tough one to bet on, but ultimately, I think Moreno takes this, and I think he's a parlay piece to be added. And if he pushes anything past negative 250, that's when we really start pushing it. You got to avoid that one. It's dog or pass at that point. I don't really got too many bets on this one, but I got Moreno. I think he'll comfortably win. Give me Moreno by decision. I wouldn't be surprised if he knocks him out in the 5th round neither, which is why the over 4.5, over and under 4.5 is really tough for me, because I do think if he's gonna do it, I think he's gonna get it done later. I mean, it is Mexico. Going 25 minutes in Mexico City is gonna be really fucking tough. But I do think these guys are training for that, obviously. So give me Moreno by decision. All right, guys, that's a wrap for the breakdown for UFC Mexico City. This card has a lot of fun matchups, some sneaky spots, and I'm excited to see how the plays pan out, especially ones, since the altitude is being a real factor here, If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow, and it really means a lot to me. I spend so much time on this shit, and, of course, it's just a real passion of mine, and a simple like is free for you, and it means the world to me. And please, let me know who you guys got in the comments below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? What are your bets? Who are you taking? Which fighters are you backing this weekend? Good luck on your bets. Enjoy the fights, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay up.